allegedly Scalp is cash converters.
Does it?
Allegedly.
Allegedly, more like definitely. So
Yeah.
they have a PS5 console. So I saw this via Reddit. I think that's where we all saw this.
Well, no. I think like this is
Where did
from
you get yours
dashgamer.com, which is an Australian site. Dan Rizzo.
Okay, that's right. Which then, yeah, okay. I subsequently saw that's where Reddit.
Yeah.
So this is a company who sells secondhand goods. So people go in, they sell their stuff because they're super poor or they stole it somewhere.
It's like a pawn shop.
It's a pawn shop.
Cash converters is also a thing in the UK as well, I believe.
Yeah, I think it is. It's not just an Australian thing. Yeah, it's just a pawn. It's a pawn shop. It's a branded franchise.
Australian pawn shop.
Yeah,
pawn. PAWN.
PAWN. Yes, pawn.
Keep going. Keep going.
Apparently in Canberra, it's all that stuff's more legal.
Keep going.
Anyway, so yeah. So they've been selling PS5s for $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you are of the opinion that that's okay because you're
Mike, can you clarify what is the actual suggested retail price in Australia?
Yeah.
So the suggested retail price in Australia is $749, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So this
you got to check your privilege so much. You bought a PS5 and you don't even know how much it cost.
Because I traded stuff in for it. I used that trade deal where I traded my PS4.
Mr. Money
so I have no idea how much
Mr.
I actually paid for it. You know what I mean? There was no retail price on it. I gave them my PS4. Go on. I traded some games in, and I actually don't think I paid anything for the PS5 because it was fully traded. In fact, they gave me $100 gift card. So technically, they gave me money to take the PS5 off there. No, they didn't. It's just because I traded a lot of games.
So $750 Australian dollars. They're retailing it for $1,500.
For $1,500, they're trying to sell it, which first of all is outrageous. The fact that they're trying to profit for something like this, they have every right to in that sense. I wasn't so much pissed off at that because supply demand. Okay, I get it. You've got your hands on something that is worth a lot in the community at the moment. It's worth more than retail. So yeah, you're going to try to flog it at a high price. What pissed me off to no avail though, which actually, in my opinion, still breaks Australian consumer laws, is the fact that they advertised it as originally being, what was it, like $1,800 or something?
$2,200
now,
at one point.
Whatever, some bullshit amount that never existed. So in Australia, for fellow Australians and people overseas who don't know, it is actually illegal, from my understanding, to advertise a product on sale if it never was the price that you originally advertised it at. So you can't just go, the thing was $3,000, now it's only $50. You can't do that unless you actually sold it at $3,000 for a reasonable amount of time.
Well, offered it for sale. You don't have to actually have sold it.
Right, yeah. Now I would say maybe they did for like a split second to avoid the laws, but I suspect, again, I don't know, but I suspect that it was never sold at that price.
Well, allegedly, because
allegedly it was never sold at that price. Well, this is what I'm saying. I suspect it's allegedly. I don't know that. Yeah. I'm saying.
Look, I think that part of it doesn't really matter that much. I don't think anyone really gets that fired up.
Me off. Okay, look. In the end, the ultimate problem isn't just that. The ultimate first of all, to me, that's the fact that if they did not sell it at that particular amount originally for a reasonable period of time, so you can't just put it off for 10 seconds and then go, that's it, tick.
Sure.
We've covered the Australian law. You have to actually try to sell it at $2,200 or whatever the price was. That part, first of all, is illegal, and the fact that someone does something as shady as that just goes to show how
that big of a deal. I don't even if you are completely right, there's a lot of examples of that being breached all the time in Australia. It doesn't make it legal, though. Yeah, and I know, but it's, laws about what gets enforced. The biggest reason why they introduced that law is because people were setting up new stores and like flipping stores, essentially. They're setting up a new store and then saying everything is like 80% off, like brand new, the store just opened. So they're really trying to clamp down on that. That's
they need to clamp down on it everywhere. The problem is it's hard to monitor unless people dob them in or call the ACCC and say, hey, such store is doing this particular thing.
I could say like Nintendo breaches that in Australia. because a lot of the games when they come out, they're advertised as they're discounted. So Hades, when it came out, it was like I was advertised as discounted by I think 20 or 15%. Where you can't do that in Australia, like because it just launched, literally just launched. Like they said, it's a launch discount. You can't do that in Australia.
The problem is that kind of exists everywhere because when you think about it, JB,
I know, but you can't. Like
to your point,
$69. Yeah, but they don't say it's 20% off. JB doesn't say it's 20% off, right?
Yeah,
so
it's probably
Nintendo does. Yeah. So you can't do that, but it's not a big deal. I don't think that's the big deal. I think the thing we're arguing about is
you think it's okay.
A pawn shop is offering PS5s in Australia for like $1,500, which is like the equivalent of like $1,000 US, right? My whole point here is, and everyone's outraged. I'm the only one who's not. I'm not fussed about this at all, right? I will firstly say that if they are going online and buying these consoles and then flipping them, like that is completely wrong. I don't know if it's illegal. I don't think it is in Australia, but I think that's completely wrong from an ethical business perspective. I don't think you can have a whole business where you're basically a scalper at that point, right?
Well, they are. They would be scalping, but we don't know. We don't know where they got
No.
So we can't make such
claims. Look, there's not many examples, so it does really seem like people have, stolen them of like, like just said, hey, you know what, I just want to sell this. I want to get rid of it. Because it's not like you're seeing hundreds of examples of this. There's very few examples so far. I think there's 2 examples that I've heard of that cash converters in Australia are selling these. So let me walk through the logic of it, right? Like they are not in the business to sell things at RRP. That's not what they do, right? You will walk in there and go, I want to sell this, PlayStation 4. And they're like, okay, we'll buy it off you for $100. And then they'll go and sell it for like $300, right? That's their business. Now, walk me through what you would do. You own the store. Someone comes in and has a PS5 and they go, I want to sell it. Yeah. No, you can't criticize people if you wouldn't do the exact same thing.
So we were going to fight this out, but I have to admit, they have every right to sell it for whatever the hell price they want.
So you agree with me? How can you be outraged then?
That part actually I agree with. I would be outraged if I knew that they went out and bought it from a store.
Yes, I agree with that.
And then they went and tried to sell it. But we don't know if they did that. If they did, absolutely outrageous.
Seems unlikely. It seems very unlikely.
If for whatever reason some idiot came off the street and went, I want to sell you my PS5 for $300 because whatever, I have no idea why someone would do that, but let's just assume hypothetically 2 people did.
They're buying them for more than retail.
Buy them for more retail, sell them for a ridiculous amount. I think as much as it sucks, it's fair game if that's what happened.
Okay, so you agree?
I don't disagree with that. I agree with you that as a pawn shop, if someone comes in and has an item that they want to sell, and we're not talking about whether it was stolen, any of that, because it's a completely different discussion. Yeah. Then you can go sell it at whatever, reasonable amount is that people will pay for it out there. And the reality is nowadays people will probably pay $1,500 for that thing. Yeah. What annoyed me was just the way they advertised it. And what also, I guess, again, speculation, how did they get their hands on it? I think it's highly unlikely that someone just walked off the street and said, you know what, I would like to sell my PS5 because for whatever reason,
people do that all the time, man. Like
that's totally likely.
They get buyer's remorse. Like, oh man, I really needed that money to actually
maybe, and they didn't want to bother with eBay or something. Yeah. So yeah,
a lot of people that are selling that stuff aren't the kind of people that are going and putting listings up on eBay.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Mike, there's a lot of bad stuff going on. Like people, have a lot of issues at home and all this other kind of stuff.
So, absolutely,
Go, this worth a lot, because some people might have just at a whim gone, I'll order one, and then all of a sudden it's worth so much more. Seems like we actually agree.
We actually agree on this. I think we do.
And Swinny, where do you stand on it? Just quickly.
I think it's an arsehole move, but I don't have any arguments to back up my.
We're in trouble. Everyone's going to turn on us because we're all on the same page.
I definitely think it's an arsehole move, but as you said, it's like they have the right to do this. But I think,
it's not nice.
To me, the price differential, like the fact that it's $1,500, is just ridiculous to me.
I don't think so.
If it was something like you asked my opinion. I think if it was something like $1,000 or something, that's much more reasonable. But I think that it feels like they're taking advantage of a situation.
Well, of course they are, but it's any business can take advantage. Like, for example, why is a particular Ferrari worth 1.5 million? It isn't. You know, the car might have been worth 100,000 when it came out.
Yeah.
It's supply and demand.
Can I? You guys have been talking for ages.
Yeah,
Let me
sorry.
finish my
I think lay this hammer down.
I think it's taking advantage of a situation where it's to the point where I think and allegedly it's also a certain chain of the cash converters that may or may not be owned by the same group as well. Allegedly. So I think that they don't care how they look to people, honestly.
Cash converters,
I think it's an arsehole move, but there's nothing you can do about it. That's all. It's like,
really nothing.
Yeah. I think as you were mentioning before, Mike, saying, it's been marked down from whatever it was to 1,800. Like, that's ridiculous, but we don't know. We don't have the information or the facts about did they actually have it up at that price for a week.
Yeah.
Is that a reasonable
amount of time?
We have no idea.
Yeah.
So.
They could have had it. I mean, it's a very grey area. I don't know. It's a reasonable amount of time according to the law, so that's very open to interpretation. You can have it for 2-3 days for an item that I would imagine if you had, from a law perspective, they would have the right to say this is a very high demand item that even 2 days is a reasonable amount of time, given that it's probably gone within 2-3 days. So. Yeah.
And I mean, like, really, the real culprit here is Sony, just not making enough of these consoles or releasing them too early or not allowing for pre-orders early enough to gauge the interest of the console.
Well, I'd say the real culprit is humanity for making too many people that want consoles. I mean, where does the blame end?
All right.
I have a list of possible episode titles I'm just adding to, right?
Oh, God. Let's go from the problems with humanity